Welcome to episode 463 of the AMPM podcast. Got a great one for you this week with Stephen Selikoff. Stephen was one of the original people in the original FBA program when it first started about 20 years ago. He was in those first 100 people to actually start sending products in FBA. Had several successful brands, still involved heavily in the wholesale side of things, as well as spending a lot of time in China visiting factories and leading trips over there. And teaching people how to really up their margins when it comes to selling on Amazon. I think you're going to really enjoy this episode and get some nice little pointers out of it as well. So here is Mr. Stephen Selikoff.
Welcome to the AMPM podcast. Welcome to the AMPM podcast, where we explore opportunities in e-commerce.
We dream big and we discover what's working right now.
Plus, this is the podcast where money never sleeps, working around the clock in the AM and the PM.
Are you ready for today's episode?
I said, are you ready? Let's do this. Here's your host, Kevin King. Kevin King.
Finally, after all these years, I get Mr. Stephen Selikoff on the podcast. How you doing, man?
I am doing good. I'm doing very, very good. How are you doing?
I'm alive and kicking. Every day above ground's a good day, right?
Absolutely.
Well, we had to stop and think about that one. We're like, well, maybe. But you know what? I'm always seeing your post on social media. You're either sitting in some fancy club, the top of a building in Seattle, or you're on the road somewhere in China, going all over, or you're you're chastising stupid sellers that are doing things the wrong way and making mistakes, and you're like trying to set them straight. Like, look, guys, this is how it works. This is what you need to do. So I always love it when I see your stuff online. Yeah,
I can be a bit contrary, but. I'm old enough that I don't care. I'll just call it as I see it.
That's right.
I got that freedom now.
So what's your story? You started off working at Microsoft for a while. Were you doing sourcing and stuff for them? Or tell me the story of how you got into this whole thing.
So I started off as an entrepreneur selling things. And I'll share a sentimental story. I tell everyone, I tell them the first time I started selling things was 1973, before a lot of people were born. And I was at the very first Star Trek convention. My brother, Richard, had kind of guided me, and he just passed. So I love sharing the story and how much he really encouraged me. But I will share a story with you that no one has heard. The very first time I actually started selling things also had to do with Star Trek, 1968. They had an episode where Kirk was on this planet with a lizard guy, and they had a fight, and everyone's watching him from the ship. And he comes up with he finds sulfur and magnesium sulfate, saltpeter, and carbon, and a big diamond, a bamboo tube, and he makes a rudimentary cannon. Well, the diamond was bullet, and the rest of the stuff made gunpowder. Well, here I was, 8 years old, watching this, thinking, I got the same stuff in my room in my Gilbert chemistry set. So I put it all together, lit a match, and boom, it really worked. Oh. I loved it. I started making small, basically firecrackers, but basically they were just miniature dynamite, and putting an Estes rocket fuse on them. And as I said, my brother Richard had just passed, so this honors him. He helped me sell these little miniature dynamites to his friends. And that's the first time I became an entrepreneur, selling these things to his friends. Eventually I got bigger and made them bigger and bigger. I made one out of a toilet paper tube packed with gunpowder, black powder. Put on a fuse. My brother and I, our backyard was terraced, and it had these terracotta drainage pipes going into it. So we went down to one of the lower levels and put this dynamite, lit the fuse, used the pole from a rake and shoved it up as far as we could. We were hoping it would go boom and send sparks out and everything else. And it went boom. There were no sparks, but there was a loud crack. I had cracked the entire backyard foundation of our home.
Oh my God.
I thought I was going to be killed. I did not tell my mother. Well, I told my mother. I did tell my mother. I was 53 years old when I told my mother, and I was still afraid of getting in trouble. And in honor of Richard, my brother, I never snitched on him. So, brothers are like that. I continued that entrepreneurial spirit. What's that? Yes, yes, absolutely.
Pyro as a young man.
I am, and I will tell you, there is another well-known person in the Amazon space who basically is as bad as I was, also my age. I'll tell you the name off air.
All right.
So I've had the entrepreneurial spirit for a long, long time. I went into fashion photography. I had long hair. I had hair, and it was long and curly and beautiful, and basically running my own business. Again, the same philosophy, the same headspace that you need as an entrepreneur.
So you had your own studio? You had your own studio? And you're
across from FIT in New York City.
Oh, so you're doing a high fashion or like a
high fashion and advertising.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome. In New York, I was doing fashion and advertising. I got to work with Jerry Della Femina, Donnie Deutsch. I mean, these were like headliners of advertising. Yeah. Eventually, I picked myself up. I went to Italy and continued photography as a starving artist in Italy. Came back. I went to Brazil for a while. Eventually, got into catalogs, which is the bread and butter of the business. Mm-hmm. My eyes couldn't focus, and I got into using the same graphic skills I had learned into e-learning. And I did well enough there that I got recruited by Microsoft. I started at Microsoft in 2000. And by 2001, I could not keep that entrepreneurial bug down. It's part of me. Mm-hmm. So I started creating. I'm up in Seattle at this point, and Seattle loves glass blowing. I started learning how to blow glass, and I would sell my glass pieces to gift shops. There's a large area outside of Seattle called Squim, which is the home of a bunch of lavender farms. So I would make lavender-colored glass balls and hummingbird feeders and stuff like that. I had a girlfriend who was a buyer for Hudson's, which is the chain of stores you see at all the airports.
Airports, yeah.
And she taught me all about retail, keystoning, and everything else I needed to know. And I started selling to retailers. So now I was really, really hooked. In 2005, I had a small product called Easy Diet Labels, and got some nice write-ups in some magazines and stuff. And I got onto Amazon. And then friends of mine, at this point, I'm still working at Microsoft, but this is my side gig. And friends of mine who were at Amazon were telling me that they're going to offer a new service, because I had always complained about my warehouse. And that new service they offered in the summer of 2006 was fulfillment by Amazon, FBA. And if you can go back and find the original ID numbers, my unique identifiers, probably within the first 100 people ever to sign up for fulfillment by Amazon, because I had the inside track, of course. And that changed everything. One of the fascinating things back then was that if you took a chance on them and signed up for FBA, they rewarded you by giving you your own website. And they only had a certain number of colors.
Had stores. The first ones, it was all like, we're setting up little miniature stores and we're going to fulfill it for you, right? It was something. Yeah, exactly. I remember that actually. Yeah. Yeah. Everything was flat files. Remember that?
Yeah. It feels so strange saying that now, because today you need a college education to understand Amazon. But back then we were just doing it by the seat of our pants.
It was basic and simple back then too. I started selling in 2001. I didn't do the fulfillment by Amazon, the FBA, until 2015, really. But since 2001, I was in their media. It's like I think it's called Advantage program, and it was basically a consignment program for books, media, and DVD, books, media, and print, because we had calendars. So they would send us an order for like 250 units for the entire fall season. I'd send them in, and they would only pay us once they sold. So it was a pure consignment type of thing.
Oh, wow.
Did that for a long time. And then in 2015, I launched several other brands under the FBA model. I'd seen the amazing.com class, and they were selling a $5,000 course. Like, I don't need to pay $5,000. I've been doing this for other things for a long time. I know I got this. So I went into it and launched 5 different brands, and still kept the Advantage stuff for these calendars going for another 3 or 4 years. And I was like, this is stupid. And by now they're ordering, 1,000 a year or 1,200 a year or whatever. So then I switched it to FBA to have more control, because I had no control over the listing or anything really. And that's when it blew up. And now we're selling tens of thousands of them, a month during the fall season. Plus Amazon's just grown so much. But I think I took my first sale like you. I took my first sale online in 1995, I think, by email. It had a little storefront like in 96, I think. So yeah, I remember when it was super basic. And like you said now, I mean, it's interesting you say you need a college degree now to sell on Amazon. It has become a lot more complicated. And you got to understand a lot of things now versus 2015. You could find something on Alibaba, whip your logo on it, and just throw it up there and do some basic little things, and you'd be fine. But now, with logistics and inventory management and the actual marketing and the AI and everything that's all rolled, and the PPC has evolved dramatically. Well, it didn't exist back then, but it's evolved dramatically. It's a whole nother animal. Are you still selling right now on Amazon?
So I take the easy way out. I sell wholesale. The products wholesale to other people that are doing the selling. I couldn't do it myself. So
you do 1P with Amazon then? You're selling wholesale?
I did for a while.
Okay.
No, I did 1P for a while. In fact, when I started Amazon Vendor, there was, again, flat file, and there was a little, at the very top, you can do a check mark, and they would take $400 out a month, and that would go to advertising. And I don't know how it was used, what they did with it.
A little co-op or something?
That's all it was. Yeah, some co-op advertising. No, now I sell wholesale to retailers and sell wholesale to people who sell on Amazon. And when I say I'm actually in partnership with a couple of people who are in my program. So I should say we, but it kind of sounds like the king or something. So I'll just say I.
So you're sourcing or creating new products or new brands, and then turn around and just wholesale say, hey, I got something that'll work. You take it and you run with it on Amazon. You take it and run with it in the retail store. So you're basically sourcing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm a vendor. I'm a wholesale vendor to people who want to sell my products.
And is that in a certain category, or are you category agnostic?
Well, I'm category agnostic. The 2 categories that I'm personally involved with is toys and gardening. Mm-hmm. Okay. And but people in my class and my program run the range from I've got a couple in the toy section to plumbing to decor to Christmas ornaments to I've got one fellow that sells about $8 million a month with an entire broad range of portfolio of products. But basically, everyone that goes through my program follows the same philosophy I take, which is be different. Be the purple cow, which Seth Godin calls the purple cow. Standing out in the field of brown cows, you don't notice any of them, but the purple cow is the one that gets your attention. Be the purple cow and have products that make profit. That's key for me. That, we were just saying, I'm happy to outsource all of the marketing. And these days, particularly, it's pay for play on Amazon. But if the marketing is just going to create more and more sales, mathematically, if you go viral, then you've got really successful marketing, and it's successful because you're not paying for it anymore. Mm-hmm. The most marketing can do is increase sales, and if it's really effective, lower its own costs, so your cost of marketing is low. Products, if they're done successfully, that's where the profit comes from. You can do a product, design a product, sell a product that has a large margin. Then you're making money on every single sale. You do that hand in hand with effective marketing. you get lots and lots of sales of products that are making lots and lots of money on every sale. That's powerful. That's what gets me excited.
It always baffled me on the Freedom Ticket in the early days. I launched the Freedom Ticket with Helium 10 in 2017. In the early days, I was doing they could pay, now it's part of Helium 10, but back then they could pay like an extra VIP or something, and they get, calls with me. Sometimes a couple personal calls and then some group calls. And I was always amazed at how many people, I'm like, so they're like, we're just having some trouble here getting this going. And I was like, well, what are you selling? They tell me, what's the selling the SRP? Like, it's $16.99 on Amazon. So what's your landed cost? They either didn't know, or they would say the factory cost, not including everything. But a lot of times they would say $10 or $11. And I'm like, you're never going to make money on this. You have no margins. You have no nothing. Yeah, but last month we did $50,000 in sales. Here's our screenshots. Like, it doesn't matter. And I think people, exactly what you just said, a lot of sellers, especially people that don't come from a business background, a true business background, they just think it's about top line. We just had someone at one of my events in Iceland, seller from Germany, doing $10 million a year selling travel pillows. Nice little business, got a bunch of employees, but we had him up on what I call Market Masters, which is it's a panel of 7 or 8 experts that I curate based on their needs, and then they basically spend an hour asking a lot of questions and another hour giving a lot of advice specifically tailored to that person. It's very powerful, and the collective of those minds coming together, and they don't always agree, but when they start looking into it, like one guy ran some quick numbers, messaged his team, said, while we're sitting there on the panel, run these numbers, and they came back, he's like, dude, you're not making any money. What are you doing? You should not be trying to go to another market. You should not be trying to do this. You're not making money where you're at. And he didn't realize that. And a lot of people, they don't know the numbers. And there's a lot of people I see that are making GMV of $2 million a year that are much more profitable than someone making 10 or 20. But everybody thinks it's about growing and scaling and getting bigger. And they got cash flow coming in, maybe in deposits from Amazon, but it's just robbing Peter to pay Paul. It's just it's like a pyramid scheme.
I see the same thing, and I
don't understand.
Why do you think it's happening?
I think people get caught up in the sexiness. They see, you don't see this as at least I don't see it as much anymore. But for years, you had the Lambo guys on Facebook and Instagram and everybody like, look, you can source something for for $1.50 in China. I'll just find it on Alibaba. You can sell it for $20, and you got $18.50 profit. Here's my screenshot. I did $100,000 last month or last week. But they don't say that was all search, find, buy giveaways or something. That's all. I don't see that as much anymore. But I think a lot of people just get into it. They don't understand. I always say the money's made in the sourcing, not in the selling. And if you can source better, that doesn't necessarily mean always a lower price. It could mean a better quality. It could mean a little bit higher price, but you can get it a month faster. It changes your cash flow cycle, or whatever it may be. That's where the money's at. And I think that's not the sexy part for a lot of people. The sexy part is the PPC and the launching and showing their family, look, this actually works. I just did $10,000 in a week. But what did you put in your pocket? Nothing.
There's every November, there's lots of different Facebook groups where people have the courage, at least, to say, I'm having Thanksgiving dinner with my wife's family or my girlfriend's family, whatever. What do I say when they ask me what I do? It's like, dude, you're selling products. You should be proud of it. Stand up and do it. But I think sometimes if they're not doing it well, if they realize they're not making money deep inside of them, they realize that it's all flash and what we used to call down in Texas, all sizzle and no steak.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, they get caught up in that exactly. They want quick wins. I mean, it's part of it's been sold, but part of it, a lot of people I think that get into selling that don't come from a selling background, and maybe they've been working a corporate job or something, they get into it wanting that freedom, which a lot of us want. And they want it quickly. They don't want to keep working for Microsoft for 4 years and have a side hustle like you did on the side. They want to actually get, and they see people having the random person that actually has some viral success or something that appears to be success, and that they want quick wins, and that's why they're always looking for hacks, or they're always looking for, how can I launch faster and get more reviews, or those types of things. Versus, look, that worked maybe 10 years ago, but not now. This is a long-term play, and it's a long-term thing, and you got to build something. And now you got to have some money, and you got to have some talent, or partners that have talent, or companies agencies you're working with that have talent that can actually do this. And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up. It's almost like a frustration, because I see it all the time. People that, this doesn't work, or they're just chasing the next shiny object, thinking that's going to cure everything in their business, and they'll spend the money buying some course or something, and they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about the funding and setting yourself up and understanding the money at the very beginning.
I always tell people, like, how much money do I need to sell on Amazon to start? And I'm like, well, it depends. What's your goal here? Are you trying to make a living? How much do you need to make? Profit First has a calculator. I give it out to my newsletter subscribers when they sign up, if they choose to download it. That actually, you plug that in. Hey, I need $70,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, whatever your number is, to pay my bills and support my family. It will then tell you answer 3 questions. They'll say, well, you need this many products at this margin, selling this much. So you can back it up from there, and you go, holy cow, to make $100,000 a year, I need to do that? No way. Maybe this isn't for me. Or now you have something to shoot for. And I always tell people, it depends on where you're at. If you're in Pakistan, where the average wage is $500-$600 a month, you could start this with $5,000 and do a product that might throw off over time, some very niche down super thing that doesn't take a lot of advertising. Some might throw off $750, $1,000 a month, once you get it up and rolling, and could be life changing for you. But for me and you, that's not going to pay for a dinner with our business dinner. No. So you're going to need a lot more than that. And I always say I used to say 2.5 times. The product that you source should be divide how much money you have by 2.5. So if you have $10,000, you're taking your life savings of $10,000 and you're going to invest that in Amazon. You should not be doing, your first product should not cost you more than $4,000 landed. And because you take 10,000 divided by 2.5, that number actually needs to probably change to 3.5 now, because of all the Amazon fees and just what's going on with tariffs and all that stuff. Maybe even to 4. But you need a 5 to 7x at a minimum on the cost. Anything that's a low price, under $100 retail, you need a super high margin. Most people are not doing that. My calendars I mentioned, they were $1.60. We print in South Korea. They're 12 by 12 printed, 13-month calendars. They were $1.60. This year, my guys messaged me, said, "Hey, I've got bad news, Kevin. The tariffs and everything else. This is fully DDP landed cost. They're going to be $2.02 a piece." I'm like, and they're like, "I'm so sorry, man. That's like a 25% jump in cost." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm raising the price from $19.95 to $24.95 per calendar this year. I'll be totally fine." But that margin is 12x. Yeah, and I can work with that. And it's a unique product, just like you said earlier. It's a purple cow amongst all the other calendars that are out there. We don't even do any PPC on it, so there's no PPC. It's after Amazon fees, it's $10-$12 pure profit per calendar, and that's where you got to be. And that's not easy, but to find all those products. But that's where you need to be looking, especially when you're new. You have a little bit more leeway once you're up and running, but that's where I think a lot of people they fail, and they don't realize the downstream of if I'm successful, oh shoot, I got to order more, I got to pay my factory before I've even been paid by Amazon for the first round, and they don't have the money, and they're going to a rich uncle or getting high loan credit cards loans or high interest credit card loans or whatever.
Yeah, you have to have that margin. That's when people come with us to China. That's what we teach them, and we in the past has taught everyone how to do a 7x. Then we moved it up to a 9x this last April. We have people doing 9x, 10x, 12x consistently. The first step in it, frankly, the hardest step to get large multipliers like that, is to believe that you can.
Yeah.
So many people are afraid to ask for it, afraid to aim for it, and then afraid to walk away if they don't get it. But this is your business. You want to make money. People start this because they're not happy with the way their life is at that moment. They've got a new baby coming, or they lost a job, or they just want to do better. They want to treat their wife or their husband better. They want to make a change. So they've got the courage to make the change, because we all know people who just complain and stay, never do anything. They have that courage. We got to respect that courage. But in order for that change to happen, you have to make money. You just can't get on the bandwagon. You can't see a video from 12 years ago and convince yourself it hasn't changed. You got to learn. You got to open up your mind. You got to be free enough to say, hey, I can't do this. Let's hire an agency. And you got to have a product that makes money.
I mean, I just had a meeting a couple of weeks ago in Tampa with someone. If I said the name, you would recognize them right away. That was very big in the Amazon space, especially in the SaaS side. Ended up selling his company for a lot of money. Dabbled around at Amazon for a little while, and then now he's got a partnership with somebody else where they're doing wholesale. Probably a similar model to you. They've got a deal with some health-related products that the government buys, and they are allowed to actually, on those big production runs for the government stuff, the company does, the contract doesn't care if they add on to the end of it, private label their own stuff. So they, if they run in, I don't know, 10,000 of these medical things, I don't want to say the product name, but 10,000 of these medical things, they can add 2,000 to the production run, get the cost of scale of 12,000 units, and just change the label to their brand name and then wholesale that out to other people. And that's what they're doing. But now they want to get back onto Amazon. And this is someone that was widely considered an expert. And he hasn't been on since 2019. And when talking to him, he's like, it's changed too much. I don't know what I'm doing now. It's a whole nother game. And I think a lot of people, like you just said, that watching a 12-year-old video or learning from someone who hasn't sold, that sold in 2017 and hasn't sold since, is not the wisest thing to do. But back on your margins issue, I think a lot of times people are afraid to be that purple cow, because a lot of times they're like, well, I can't do 12x because everybody else is selling it. If I'm buying it for $2, I got to sell it for $9.99 because everybody else is selling it for $9.99. So that's a 5x markup, and I got to beat them in price. It's like, no, you don't have to beat them in price. If you differentiate and you properly market it, you can actually do it right. And maybe you spend, instead of $2 a unit, you spend $3 a unit. And you put this little kitchen knife in a fancy little box. It's got a string on it, and when you open it, it looks like it's some samurai chef, sushi chef, Michelin star sushi chef, and you charge $49.95 for this same damn thing. And you spend an extra $1 or $2 in the presentation or in the packaging. And they're like, I don't know if people will do that. It's like, no, it works. You're not going to sell as many. And that's usually the answer is, well, I'm not going to sell as much. Like, yeah, but you're going to actually make a damn profit. I had an example I give a lot in some of my talks. Is I used to sell bully sticks. Bully sticks. Do you know what bully sticks are for dogs?
Oh, yeah.
So it's the private parts of a cow, basically, that they use, and they convert that into a little chewable thing for a dog. And I got one of these tools back in like 2016 said, oh, this is a great opportunity, back early days of tools. And so I was like, cool. I'm going to get into it. I start looking. Everybody's selling the same thing in plastic bags with a label on it. 30 sticks with a label in a plastic bag for, I don't know, $29, $35, call it $1 a stick. I'm like, how am I going to compete with this? Just coming out with my own, with a prettier logo or a prettier name, or I can do some crazy, black hat stuff that people were doing back then. It's like, no, I'm going to differentiate. So I went and I found a chef in New England that's classically trained French chef that does these. I looked at all the reviews and saw this was before the tools and the AI stuff, scraped them. I scraped like 3,000, read it all, and people were bitching about smell, bitching about where's the cow coming from? Is this some foreign beast meat? And they're bitching about stains on their couch. When the dog eats it, a little bit of liquid can come out and stuff. And so I fixed those 3 problems with this guy, and I marketed it as done by organically, 15-step process, this American chef, American beef, And instead of selling 30 sticks for $30 and making a couple bucks a unit and just and fighting everybody, for the first page or for the keywords, I came out with 3 sticks. I put them in a cigar type of box to make them look different with a nice little textured label on top. Sold 3 sticks for $54.95 instead of 30 for 30. And people were like, this is never going to fly. I'm like, no, it will. Some people treat their pets just like their kids. They want the best for them. They want their healthy. They want their dog to be healthy or whatever. So they parlay that into, or they transfer that into their pets. The thing started selling. Now, was I the best seller on Bully Sticks? No, I'm not even close. But on Bully Sticks No Order, Bully Sticks made in the USA, premium Bully Sticks, I was able to be on page 1, and they sold extremely well. And I'm looking at it going, okay, I'm selling whatever, I forget the numbers, $500, $1,000 a day, probably about $1,000 a day back then. But I'm actually making $300, $400 profit with no competition, no people knocking me down. Everybody else is fighting and they might have been selling 500 units a day with a $2 margin at the end of the day, and a constant fight. I didn't have any of that. So that's an example I like to give. Amazon is not just about price. It's all in the product. You put out a good product and you market it well, and you have decent margins. You don't have to be the best seller. You can be middle of the pack or best seller in a couple niche keywords. And that's where I think a big mistake a lot of people make. Do you see that in your students as well?
So, yeah, no, absolutely. But first of all, I have to say it's not difficult to imagine that you have a few cigar boxes around that you could use.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, what happens is, and these days it's more difficult because you are able to take the time and the effort and scrape them yourself. These days, there's tools that do that. There's AI that do that.
Yeah.
And I've seen some demonstrations in China of AI that not only scrapes what everybody is complaining about, but then projects out what the product should be, what it looks like. Here's a mock-up ad and everything.
It's so much easier now, and everybody has access to that. There's not as big a moat around that.
Yeah, which also means everybody's differentiating the same way.
Because they're using the same tools.
Key. Yeah. Can I tell you a way to differentiate
absolutely.
that's really going to work? Okay. So there's 2 parts of this. First is I'm a big believer in what's called WTP, willingness to pay. You want a product that has WTP that's rather high. Customers are willing to pay a high price. So how do you get that? I'm looking around my desk here. So I have a little sweeper for your keyboard. Now, not a great one, not a terrible one, whatever. If you went on Amazon and you read all the reviews, you might find that people think it should be longer or stiffer, different color bristles, whatever. I don't know. Everyone else, thousands of other people are doing the same thing. The answer to how do you get something that cleans your keyboard and competes against this, that answer was given to us in World War II. In World War II, the planes would come back to the airfields and they'd be filled with bullet holes. In the military, they started spending money trying to reinforce because the wings were filled with bullet holes, the tail, It's like, where can they reinforce this so it doesn't get bullet holes? And a statistician stopped them and said, whoa. We're looking at the planes that came back, which means they got these bullet holes, but they still returned. What about the ones that didn't return? Where were they shot? Well, they were being shot in the fuselage, in the cockpit, and stuff like that. That's where we need to reinforce the airplanes. Look at the ones that didn't come back. It's the same thing with the product. Sure, you can make that little brush a better keyboard sweeping brush by looking at that, but you're just fixing the problems. What you want to do is people who want a cleaner keyboard, they're not buying that. Why are they not buying that? What are they looking for? You're trying to figure out what is it that they wanted in the first place, and this didn't resolve. And if you can figure out what they wanted in the first place, now you have something that really solves their problem. Now you have something with a high WTP. And because there are no competitors, you're not in a race to the bottom. You can set your price to what people really feel is fair, what they're willing to pay. And you can keep it there because nobody else is doing it. That really sets you apart. It differentiates you not as a different keyboard sweeper, but it differentiates you because you've got a different product that cleans the keyboard and keeps it clean, keeps it the dust out of it and everything. You do that, now you got a winner.
So how does someone do that? I mean, so the average person selling, they don't have design engineers. They don't have people that can envision this stuff or can do some of that kind of research. There's companies like Gemba and people like that are out there that can help in some cases. But what do you recommend to your people? Is it go to the factory and talk to them and say, hey, look, I got this idea. Can you do this? What do you do?
Start off understanding what you think the solution is. Do a rough prototype, a proof of concept. Does it work? Does it do what you want it to do? Then you want to get it designed. You want to protect your design. So don't go to the factory and ask them to design it for you. You run a very large risk these days, particularly politically. Chinese courts do kind of favor now Chinese factories if they say, well, we invented that, not the guy who paid us. So instead, go to a place like CADCrowd, CADCROWD. Hire a designer. Say, hey, this is what I want. This is what it looks like. Here's the proof of concept. And you get the designer not only to design it out and give you all the product specs, all the diagrams that the factory needs, all the information, but you own it. And you can protect that right away from the very beginning before you even show it to the factory. Now you've got something that works really well. The factory will understand that, hey, this is different. The factories, they've seen people come in left and right with the same thing, with the same little brushes for keyboards. They don't care. They can give you as high a price as they want. And they know if you say no, the guy behind you is going to say yes. But when you come in with something that looks like it's going to really work, a good business plan, now they want to work with you. They want to make money with you. You both bring a mutual beneficial, you both bring something to the table. That's guanxi. Guanxi is not just a relationship. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. We were at, you and I were talking at Prosper one year in Las Vegas. And you could walk around there and you could see guys that look like they're 95 years old with women that look like they're 25 years old. Do you think that's love? No, that's guanxi. Those are two people bringing a mutually beneficial relationship. One's got, a great body. The other's got great life insurance. That's what you want going with the factory. When that happens, then they're going to give you a lower price because it makes sense for them to be able to ride along with your success. They see good things. And frankly, culturally, it's more difficult for them to come up with interesting ideas. So coming back to your original question, figure out a solution that works. If you're not an expert in how to clean keyboards, maybe you're an expert on how to clean around your kitchen because you've been doing it for so many years, or how to clean up after your dog if you're into pet products, how to clean up after your baby if you're a parent. But there's all sorts of things that you're familiar with from your own life where you're an expert and you see what's out there and you see what's selling and you're thinking, they're missing the mark. Don't differentiate just to be different. We all know what karate belts are. There's a black belt in karate. There's a brown belt, a yellow belt, green belt, purple belt. I think there's some others. I don't know. White belt, maybe?
Yeah, there's a series of them. I don't know what the colors are, but yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at all of those and you say, whoa, that's great. All of these are selling really well. I want to do one that's different, and I want to do a polka dot one or a leopard print belt for karate. It's not going to sell because you don't know what people are really looking for and what they need. But if it's something that you're living every day, if you're big in surfboards, I'm saying that because I was recently at a surfboard factory. I've been to so many factories, Kevin. I have so many factories.
I can imagine.
I've learned so much about engineering. But again, the more you know, the better you're going to get good prices. But you look at something you're already familiar with. Look at what people are buying. What problems are they trying to solve? And then take a step back. What were they trying to solve in the first place? You do that. Now you're beautiful.
No, that's a good point. But back on the protection thing, like you said, you can have a design. You can file IP in the U.S. But if you partner with a factory, what's your experience? And you said the factories want to work with you, and they usually do. But a lot of times, if you're not doing the protections in China, which are not always acknowledged anyway, they're just knocking it off and selling it to Africa or selling it to the Chinese market or something behind your back. Or maybe it's not that factory, but it's their brother down the street that's doing it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, when you source your factory, never source with your product. Figure out something that's similar to your product. And that's what you look to source for. So, for example, let's say you're doing a Bluetooth speaker that looks like an antique book. And you say, this is fantastic. No one else has an antique. Probably do. I'm just using this. So this is an antique book, looks like a Bluetooth speaker, sits in the bookshelf. Don't go to the factory and say, I want to do an antique book looking Bluetooth speaker. Is it leather bound? Is it about this big, this big? Tell them you want to do a gift box looking speaker that's made of leather. Just tell them something else, not your actual product. If you tell the same decoy product to 10 products, 10 factories, 20 factories, 100 factories, you'll be able to compare them apple to apple basis because they're all bidding on the same thing. And then once you have the factory that communicates best with you, that you've done an audit or you've visited, that gives you a really good price and you feel good about it, they turn around, they're responsive, they're telling you the lead times, are good lead times. All of that works. Then you get an NNN with them. And here's the deal. Get a Chinese attorney to do the NNN because two things are going to happen. Number one, if they hear from a Chinese attorney, then they know you could be anywhere in the world, but you got a sitting there in China whose job it is to make sure they follow. The second thing is, and I've heard this from every Chinese attorney I've ever spoken to, and a couple that are not in China but do a lot of Chinese work, the factory's going to ask them, tell me about this client. And a good Chinese attorney will tell them good things about you. So now it's the bicycle lock theory. The bicycle lock theory is you don't have to have the strongest bicycle lock. You just need to make sure that when the guy comes to steal bicycles, yours has a lock on it, and he looks for the easier ones that don't have a lock. You have an NNN, a couple of things going to happen. Number one, they're going to think twice before trying to copy you. And particularly, once you move beyond Amazon and you expand into selling to retailers, you're now bringing in revenue to that factory that they would never have before. Every single factory you go to in China these days has a photo booth set up, white paper, everything else, because they are selling on Amazon, whether they tell you or not. And it's not just Amazon, Shein, Temu, and a couple of others that I'm not supposed to be talking about yet, but it's probably already hitting the US by the time this hits the air. Big ones. They're going to compete selling products. So when you have a product of your own, you want to make sure they are not selling it themselves to the same consumers. But if they're selling it to Africa, to EMEA nations, if they're selling it South America, so what? Don't worry about it. Don't lose sleep. Focus on the biggest markets there are. Focus on America and Japan and Germany and Europe. Germany and Europe, same thing. But focus where you're going to make money. So you get that NNN. Then you make sure that you're protected by registering your trademark in China as well as in the US. And I think I know that you know the stories of people sitting on trademarks and trying to hold up your shipment when it leaves China and stuff like that. That's because they've recorded the trademark with Chinese Customs Border Protection. But here's the thing. You can do the same thing. You get the trademark in China, then you record your own trademark with customs, and you record it in the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. It's $190 for 10 years. That's $19 a year. Those products come in with your name in it, your trademark on it. If anyone else is sending stuff in trying to be you, trying to counterfeit, it's going to be seized. If they don't seize it leaving China, They will seize it when it comes into the U.S. That's, I'll just say, $190 for 10 years. Everyone should be doing that. Most inexpensive way of protecting yourself as possible. And then lastly, get familiar with trade dress laws. That protects you from people selling a product that could be mistaken for your product. So you're not going to be, you're not going to make it impenetrable. I've got a couple of clients who won Time Magazine Best New Invention of the Year. And they've got people online who are saying, hey, you can buy this product for $49. And people are sending in $49 and the product's $700. And then those customers are contacting my students saying, hey, I sent in $49 and they're saying, talk to your bank. Come on, that's not us. Yeah. You didn't send it to us or anything else. You're always going to have someone trying to rip you off. But if you focus on making the most money you can in the biggest markets with the largest margin, then you're going to be going to sleep, happy and whistling a happy song. You'll deal with the other things. And frankly, as you expand more and more into retail, Amazon becomes like 10, 15% of your income. You're not going to lose that much sleep over it anyway. Lastly, on the same point, when you build a product, build out a product developmental timeline. So you're launching with version 1, the simplest, the basic, base level product. You know that 18 months later, you've got version 2. 12 months after that, you've got version 3. So when people do come along to copy, they're always aiming 6 feet behind you because you've moved ahead and you've got the unique product that no one else does.
I just had someone just a couple of weeks ago on actually it's last week's episode of the podcast. She's pretty well known in China. She's got a little agency and she speaks at some of the big events. They got like 2,500 people at their big Sunday events and stuff over there. But she's like in all of her stuff, and really sharp girl. She's like, look, us Chinese sellers are having trouble right now, from the factories to the sellers, because we know how to do numbers. We know how to game the system. We're good at taking you guys' innovations and then figuring out a better way to engineer it or to make them cheaper, to make these little changes or whatever. But we don't understand your culture. We don't understand your marketing and how to actually market and actually build a brand. See, there's 2 big issues: the building of a brand and the marketing to the West. And I said, well, you get AI and tools. She's like, no, that helps on some, but we still can't, the psychology, we can't get into their head. We don't understand. That doesn't really help us on that. It helps us make a listing that's not Chinglish or something, but it's, no, we still have a problem. And then they're like, we don't understand retail. We don't understand U.S. retail. She's like, how many Chinese sellers do you see in retail in the U.S., that have these weird brand names of DKXR3 that you see on Amazon? I said, virtually none. She's like, no, we don't know how to do it. So she's coming over to the U.S., going to NYU, getting a master's in, I'm not sure exactly, but she's doing a lot of digital marketing, advertising classes and stuff, trying to figure this out. She just finished her first year and she's on to her second year. So what do you see when you spend a lot, at the time we're talking, you just got back from like 3 months in China, 2 or 3 months in China. What are you seeing on the ground over there that we have a competitive advantage in the West over them? And where do we just quit trying to compete here because they're going to beat us every time?
Yeah. Well, first of all, got to give a shout out to NYU. I took a semester there back in 1990. Yeah, around then. Wow. Now I'm feeling really old. Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome. Back in the fashion photography days, right?
Yeah, it actually was before then. Back, and I had hair then too. But yeah, the number one thing that we know how to do that Chinese people do not is we know how to color outside the lines. We know how to break the rules. Emil Durkheim, the father of sociological statistics, said that deviancy is the price that society pays for creativity. We're deviant. We go outside the norm. And for such an incredibly large population, culturally, they are raised within very strict understanding of what to do, what's expected of them, what their obligations are, what's right and wrong. In fact, you won't hear little children saying no in China. Despite the fact that Chinese is not really no, it's an affirmation of a negative. It's still, they're not the same culture from birth. We have been taught to do things differently, to be creative, to color outside the lines. That's our strength. We can do that. We can innovate. Don't be afraid to innovate. Test it out. Put it in front of friends if you have to. Strangers, even better. Get people feedback on your idea. Yeah, this really works, or this is terrible. I mean, you and I both have seen people come to us with terrible ideas over the years. And sometimes it's really easy to fall in love with your idea, and you need someone to be honest with you and say, hey, that's a terrible idea. But more often than not, people are afraid to do that. They want to stay specifically to what they know and they see. A perfect example in the FBA world is those people that are really successful. They understand how to find products that have the best chance of success, and they follow their own formula. And lots of gurus have almost the same formula each one follows, and so on. But the ones that are really successful, they're breaking the rules. They're doing things differently. They're doing things differently in their business. They're doing things differently in their products. And they're building a strong business. I'm going to give a shout out to a mutual friend of ours, Athena. She did a great email, probably 2-3 months ago, when all the tariff brouhaha started actually it was all the way back in longer than that. But she sent off an email basically saying, folks, look at your own business. If it's not strong, make it strong enough. I like telling people it's the 3 little pigs theory. The house of straw, the wolf came and blew it down. The house of sticks, the wolf blew it down. Build your business out of bricks and stone. Make your business strong. And in the case of selling products, that means differentiating, having the right price, having a product that people want. And as you said, and I said, having large multiplier. Go for a 10x, a 12x multiplier. If you don't know how to do it, learn to do it. I have videos out there. Other people have videos out there. Get payment terms. If you're not going to ask for them up front, when are you going to ask for them? Get that product part done right. And then, the marketing, you're selling something that makes money on every single sale. Don't get caught up in selling something that's breaking even or losing money. And if you don't know, sit down with an accountant. You may hate it. You may not like to hear what they have to say. Maybe the most boring thing in the world you've ever done, but it's worth it. Sit down with an accountant who looks at your business and says, hey, dude, you're losing money here and you're missing an opportunity to make money there.
What do you see in all the factory visits that you've been to? You just said earlier, I've been thousands of factories or whatever.
Love it.
What can you share of 2 or 3 things that sellers that are a little bit more less experience under their skin should be looking out for that you're seeing factories do? Maybe it's something that they're doing to cut corners, and they need, hey, make sure you always check on this, this, and this. Or maybe it's something in a good way, like, oh, here's an opportunity. You got all this extra fabric laying on the floor. If you go visit them, you can see that, oh, let's make this into some other thing. You're just wasting it. Or you get my idea. And just on that same note, I'm always baffled at how many sellers don't do inspections, or they do it on the first or second order. And like you were saying earlier, the trademark's $190. Spend the damn money. They won't spend the $150 to $400 depending on the company they're using, the type of deal they're doing, because the first 3 orders have been fine. Never had a problem, so why should I waste that money and have any potential delays? So can you talk to those things about inspections and about opportunities that you see and things that you need to make sure you're aware of that you might not be aware of?
Yeah. First, on the inspections, I'm going to give a shout out to an inspection company called V-Trust. And there's lots of good inspection companies, SGS, Intertech. I was going to say Asian Inspection. Now they're called Kima for the last few years. They're all good inspection companies. I'm going to give a shout out to V-Trust for a different reason. When COVID started up here and it was already on the decline in China, I was talking to the CEO of V-Trust, Ted, and I mentioned that my niece worked in a hospital. She was a nurse in a pediatric ICU hospital in New York City, and how they were already running out of masks and so on. And he was just conversationally asking where she works and so on. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. Who is this? Do you know a guy named Ted from China? I said, yeah. On his own, he took it on himself to send and supply them with masks in this hospital for little babies. And that character speaks so much to me that he's earned a shout out because of that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So coming back to what you look for in the factory, first of all, staying on inspections. Chinese culture, Chinese people love to gamble. If you have 4 orders and you only do inspections on the first 3, they're all going to think, okay, they're not going to think, oh, we're going to get inspected the next time. They're going to think, hey, we have a 1 out of 4 shot that we can get away without an inspection. So always do an inspection, no matter what. You're playing into their hands otherwise. And always have the product specs carefully defined. My first big success were pillowcases. I didn't invent pillowcases. Pillowcases have been around for however many number, hundreds of years. I had pillowcases that were different. My ex was disabled. We had a little service dog that climbed into the bed the first night the dog was there. My wife moved over. I moved over. The dog stretched out, and I got the look, even though I was on the very edge of the bed. I couldn't complain. So my first big product were pillowcases that split the bed in half. One half said the dog sleeps here. The other half said the wife sleeps here. And jumbled up on the edge, it says the husband sleeps here. And we had a whole series of pillowcases for people who let the dog sleep on the human bed. Now, it's funny, it's cute, it was a big success. I'm also a numbers guy. I can tell you right now, at that point, 52% of American households with dogs let the dog sleep on the human bed, 72% with small dogs. I knew the market. I knew at those numbers that more dogs were sleeping on the human bed than in dog beds, dog crates, dog kennels, and dog beds combined. So I had a great market, and I differentiated pillowcases. So now I could sell them as pillowcases for the home and also a pet product and pet stores. Opened up a whole nother realm of selling. So I knew what I was doing. And I'm trying to remember where this question was. Oh, yeah. So I did not specify what the GSM was on our polyester version. I'm going to take this one more step into the old story. We had 2 versions. We had 330 thread count pure cotton. These were sold in stores where people could touch it and feel it. And then we had polyester versions under a different brand name, different designs that ripped off the first designs. Nobody knew I was the same person. 2 different companies, one ripping off the other. I was making money on both of them. So we didn't have the, it's all about making money. We do this to make money, you know? So, but I did not have the GSM specified on the polyester ones. And because I did not have it specified, when the inspections were done, they were looking for abrasion and, there's a die fast and printing and quality and packaging and everything else. But they weren't measuring the GSM because I didn't have a specific GSM for them to test for. Always make sure you have all of your details, all of your product specs known very, very well. And now I'll give another shout out to someone we both know, Kian. Kian's got a great trick, which is if you're doing a product and you don't know anything about it, find someone you don't want to work with. Ask them every question you can. Learn for them and then wave bye-bye, because now you'll have all of the information you should know when you go to the factory you want to work with. Make sure all that information is carefully documented. So when the inspection's done, it can be actually matched to what those requirements are supposed to be. And then the first part of the question, which is, what do you look for when you go into a factory? There's 4 things you should always be looking for when you go into a factory. The showroom. Do they have a large showroom? I was in a factory that had a huge showroom and maybe a dozen different products. That was an immediate red flag. There was something going wrong here, and there was something wrong going on. Second is the production floor. You want to make sure that it's clean, that people are doing what they're doing, that everyone who's working, that there's a lot of people working. It's not like a completely empty factory or so on. That's not difficult to see. look for what the QA is. And if you don't see it, ask for it. Where's the quality control? What type of quality assurance policies do they have? And then lastly, look at shipping. Look at the section where products are leaving. And then, are they neatly taped up? Are the carton marks, the shipping marks, stamped and printed on the outside? Or is it a piece of paper that's just taped on? Press down on the top of the box. Does it have a lot of leeway and give? That's because they tried to cut corners and buy pre-made boxes rather than having boxes made for you. You hit those 4 things, the showroom, QA, production floor, and shipping, right away you'll have a good sense if this is a factory you want to work with or not. Talk with them. Lots of times real factories won't have someone who is as proficient in English as a trading company does. But depending on where you are, it's easy enough to find someone who'll do a translation, particularly if you're anywhere around the world of EWU. We had just mentioned EWU earlier. You can, for $50, you get someone who'll take you through EWU for translations. You can, if you're around that area, you can also have them come to a factory with you and translate. It's not difficult to find people who do translations for you on the ground there. I'm going to kind of put a bow on that by pointing out, by you going to the factory, by you communicating, even if it's going online, but frankly, now that COVID's over, everyone should get on a metal tube, fly there for 8, 10, 12 hours, get off and be in China. It's not a big deal. You can negotiate better than anyone. You live this, sleep this, eat this. You put food on the table for your family because of this business. You can negotiate better than anyone. Sourcing agents are great at finding a factory for you, finding a supplier for you. But when it comes for negotiation, you can do better than anyone. You're willing to put the patience and the time.
Stephen, we could keep talking on this for a while. This is too much fun. But we're already past an hour. The guys at Helium yell at me. So tell me a little bit about this training that you have and these trips that you do, and how would people find out about that?
All right. Well, it's real simple. Product One. Used to be Product Development Academy. The new name is product1.com. Because we're focused.
Spelled out one or with a number one?
Number one. Here's a secret. You can also do product.one, that URL instead of .com, but product1.com is a lot easier, the digit 1. And if you look at the logo, it looks like the New York subway line 1, which is where I used to take to get home when I was a kid, when I lived southern part of Manhattan called Soho, number 1 line. That was my home for a long time. But Product One, and Product One, we do a few different things. We have the China trip, which we go twice a year during the Canton Fair, and we help you succeed. We not only help you source at the fair, we teach you how to do business the Chinese way, how to negotiate, so you're getting that 9x, 10x, 12x multiplier. We teach you about shipping and how to avoid scams, and take you to the port. Last April when we went, we got a VIP tour of their AI-driven part of the port. 25% of the port's done by AI and robotics, which is incredible. We take you to a certification lab. We teach you what those certifications are and how to save money there. Inspections, packaging, all of that, factories and so on, as well as the Canton Fair. At the end of 2 weeks, you have so much experience and, more importantly, confidence that not only do you leave with products and great ideas for products and connections, but you leave with that confidence and knowledge. That's big. So it's all about the product, whether it's on the sourcing side, the manufacturing side, the selling side, the development side. That's where we are. It's all the parts that you need beyond these wonderful things that you're learning about listing and selling on Amazon.
Awesome. So product.one. Well, Stephen.
Product.one or product1.com, whichever is easier to remember.
Either one. Awesome. Well, Stephen, I appreciate you coming on today and sharing. This has been fun. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Excellent. Can I make an offer?
Sure.
So I've got the big book that's sold on Amazon. It's a textbook now. It's used at universities. Anyone who wants a free, well, I'm not going to say anyone. anyone who says that you've watched this video and wants a free book, we'll do that up to 200 free books. Just send an email to book@product1.com. Say you want a copy of it. And once we hit 200, the over is off the table. But this way you can get a free book as well.
Awesome. Very generous of you. Thank you. Thank you, man. That's very kind. Cool. Well, hey, I'll see you. I'm sure I'll see you in Seattle, if not sooner, for later this month for Accelerate. I'll be up there.
Absolutely.
But looking forward to it, man. Thanks again.
Absolutely. I got to take you to lunch, let you see over the whole of the city and everything.
That's right. I got to see this fancy little place up there.
You got
cool.
it.
We'll see you soon, man. Some great ideas and strategies there from Steve, and I think you probably get some good things running around in your head right now, things that you need to do, need to change when it comes to the way you're choosing products and looking for margins, or for what you're doing in the sourcing or dealing with the factories. Awesome stuff. Be sure to check out his product.one or product1.com as well. And also check out the $1 Billion Sellers Club newsletter, $1BillionSellers.com. Every Monday and Thursday, I got a brand new edition coming out in that as well. And then there's the $1 Billion Sellers Club that's recently started on top of that. So check that out as well. I'll be back again next week with another awesome episode. Until then, take care, and we'll see you again next Thursday.